Hello and welcome back to another Magic the Gathering EDH deck tech idea. Today we are taking a look at another mono green commander, Loot, Exuberant Explorer. It is a 3 mana 1/4 and you may play an additional land on each of your turns. It also has an activated ability for 6 mana, and tapping it, look at the top 6 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature card with mana value less than or equal to the number of lands you control from among them and put it onto the battlefield. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. This mono green commander allows us to play an additional land on each of our turns, and once we have accumulated enough lands we can go for its activated ability to cheat out a few powerful creatures at the right time. Aside from a common ramp package, we want to play as many lands as possible either from our hand or from the top of our library, which is why we play cards like Cursor of Crufix, a 3 mana 2/4, and you play with the top card of your library revealed. Furthermore, you may play lands from the top of your library, and whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 1 life. Another creature card that allows us to play our lands from the top of the library is Augur of Autumn, a 3 mana 2/3, and you may look at the top card of your library anytime. You may play lands from the top of your library, and as long as you control 3 or more creatures with different powers, you may cast creature spells from the top of your library. Due to the fact that Augur and Loot already share 1 and 2 power, we just need 1 more creatures to also enable the Coffin mechanic, which will give us even more flexibility. Last but not least, we also play Oracle of Muldaya, a 4 mana 2/2, and you may play an additional land on each of your turns. You play with the top card of your library revealed, and you may play lands from the top of your library. Due to the fact that we got a bunch of additional land drops in this deck, we want to use the landfall mechanic as efficient as possible, which is why we play cards like Green Sleeves, Merrow Sorcerer, a 5 mana 0/0, and it has protection from planeswalkers and from wizards. Green Sleeves Merrow Sorcerer's power and toughness are each equal to the number of lands you control, and whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, create a free Badger creature token. The whole landfall section in this deck will probably go us extremely wide, so we can finish our opponents off with an overrun effect. So we also play Skewed Swarm, a 3 mana 1/1. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, create a 1/1 green insect creature token. If you control 6 or more lands, create a token that's a copy of Skewed Swarm instead. To also be able to block a few flying creatures, we play Elf Sworn Giant, a 5 mana 5/3 with reach, and whenever a land you control enters, create a 1/1 green elf warrior creature token. We play Rampaging Baloths, a 6 mana 6/6 with trample, and whenever a land you control enters, you may create a 4/4 green beast creature token. One of our most powerful landfall creatures is Avenger of Zendikar, a 7 mana 5/5, and when it enters, create a 0/1 green plant creature token for each land you control. Furthermore, whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you may put a 1/1 counter on each plant creature you control. To be a little bit more resistant to board wipes, we also play Zendikar's Royal, a 5 mana enchantment. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, create a 2/2 green elemental creature token. There are a few different creatures that we would like to hit with Loot's ability, for example Kodama of the East Tree, a 6 mana 6/6 with reach, and whenever another permanent enters the battlefield under your control, if it wasn't put onto the battlefield with this ability, you may put a permanent with equal or lesser converted mana cost from your hand onto the battlefield. Another really good card in a mono green deck is Defiler of Vigor, a 5 mana 6/6 with trample, and as an additional cost to cast green permanent spells you may pay 2 life. Those spells cost 1 green less to cast if you paid life this way. This effect reduces only the amount of green mana you pay. Whenever you cast a green permanent spell, put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control. There will be times when we have our top end creatures in our hands and have to cast them, so a card like Silverback Elder really compensates the downside if this scenario happens. Because it is a 5 mana 5/7, and whenever you cast a creature spell, choose 1. Destroy target artifact or enchantment. Look at the top 5 cards of a library. You may put a land card from among them onto the battlefield tapped, put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order, or you gain 4 life. Another powerful Anthem effect comes from Thunderfoot Baloth, a 6 mana 5/5 with trample, and as long as you control your commander, Thunderfoot Baloth gets +2/+2, and other creatures you control get +2/+2 and have trample. To get another additional land drop, we also play Wayward Sawtooth, which is also great in the early game, a 3 mana 5/5, and you may play an additional land on each of your turns, and it can't attack or block unless you have the City's Blessing. Another great hit with Loot's ability is Vorinclex, a 5 mana 6/6 with trample and reach, and when it enters the battlefield, search a library for up to 2 forest cards, reveal them and put them into your hand. This way you can secure that you always max out Loot's passive ability by playing additional lands from your hand, and it also has an activated ability where you exile it and pay 8 mana, so you can transform it into the Grand Evolution, an enchantment saga, and in the first chapter mill 10 cards, put up to 2 creature cards from among the milled cards onto the battlefield. The second chapter allows you to distribute 7+1/+1 counters among any number of target creatures you control, and the third chapter says until end of turn, creatures you control gain for 1 mana, this creature fights target creature you don't control, and then you exile the Grand Evolution and return it as Vorinclex. You want to win more? You get it. We play Craterhoof Behemoth, an 8 mana 5/5 with haste, and when it enters the battlefield, creatures you control gain trample and get +X/+X until end of turn, where X is the number of creatures you control. Due to the fact that we have a bunch of landfall mechanics that will make us additional tokens, Craterhoof Behemoth can be one of those final overrun effects. We also play Ashaya, Soul of the Wild, a 5 mana 0/0, and its power and toughness are each equal to the number of lands you control. Furthermore, non-token creatures you control are forest lands in addition to their other types. Making all of your creatures forests in addition to their other types is really helpful for Loot's ability, as Ashaya will allow you to close a gap between the land count that you already have and that you need for the powerful creatures that you have in your deck. And last but not least, we also play Ancient Green Warden, a 6 mana 5/7 with reach, and you may play lands from your graveyard. Furthermore, if a land entering the battlefield causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. This replacement effect is extremely strong in this deck as we play a bunch of landfall triggers, so we can maximize the profit out of those triggers. Alright guys, these were a few cards that I would play in Loot, Exuberant, Explorer. Make sure to check out my full deck list in the notes below. Let me know which cards you would add to the deck, which legendary creature I shall feature next, and then I would say, see you on the next one. Goodbye guys.